Unpacking Trump's State of the Union, all that and more today on The Nathan Hale Show. Well, folks, we are back. It is February 27th, 2026. It's going to be a fast show today. We're going to get right through this stuff. I got places to be and things to do, so we're not going to waste any time. We got to get right into talking about the State of the Union. Make sure you subscribe to this show. We're live on Rumble, X, and YouTube right now, 5 p.m., or excuse me, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central. On all those platforms every single Friday. It is the highlight of the week being here on this show with you all. I love it so much. I love interacting with you. If you have questions or comments about this show, make sure you tweet at me. Let me know what they are. I'll be sure to try and get back to you. But let's go into our very first story today. We got to talk about the Trump State of the Union. 5 unforgettable moments from Trump's record-breaking State of the Union address. Now, I watched this address in full, and I gotta say, I feel like it was pretty good. You know, for a Trump address, I think he did a good job. He was not super Trumpy, I've gotta say, and I think that actually benefited him in this address. So let's get right into it. So President Trump's beat records, becoming the longest State of the Union speech in modern history at approximately an hour and 48 minutes. I did notice that, but let me just say one thing. How grateful are we all that we have a president that can speak for an hour and 48 minutes, still stand and talk coherently for that long? I remember watching Joe Biden give State of the Union addresses like, I don't know what the heck this guy is even talking about, right? So an hour and 48 minutes, it was solid with her. It did not feel, it felt like a long speech, but it didn't feel like I was falling asleep. Like, it felt very good the entire time. So it highlighted his administration's efforts to cut taxes, ease housing costs, and lock down the border as he touted turning a new page for the nation. So our very first highlight, it's gotta be Al Green. How could it not be Al Green? So Al Green, he showed up with his sign. He said that black people aren't apes. He holds out a sign. First off, how ironic is it? The Democrats choose the most ape-like representative that they have to hold up this sign. I mean, let's be real. This is not anything to do with the man being black. This has to do with the man literally looking like an ape. I mean, you could have asked Chuck Schumer to hold up that sign, and it would have been a better option than Al Green. I mean, Chuck Schumer, he looks like a goblin to me. He looks like a little goblin. But at least Al Green literally looks like an ape. That's all I gotta say about that. But so they got Al Green to hold this sign. So Texas Representative Al Green, who does nothing other than try and get in the Trump administration's way of doing things, was once again ejected from the joint address after holding a sign declaring, quote, "Black people aren't apes." You can see it right here on the screen. Green held a sign as Trump made his way to the dais Tuesday evening and remained standing with the sign even after Trump began the speech. Green was spotted in a heated back and forth with 2 House Republicans, Tory Neals of Texas and Pat Fallon, also of Texas. I'm sure that they love Al Green in Texas, guys. If I know anything about Texas, I know they don't like Al Green. I don't know how this man keeps getting elected. He's so useless. He does nothing. He is the House's version of Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, who's not passed any major legislation his entire career. Same thing with Al Green. The longtime Texas left-wing lawmakers were moved by security during Trump's 2025 joint address to Congress after repeatedly interrupting the president by shouting and shaking his cane. The outburst led to the House censuring Green, including 10 Democrats joining the GOP in the March 2025 vote. So we have a video for you to watch here. So let me go ahead and pull this on up. We got Al Green. Here he is.
That's your warning.
So you see he's shouting at the president here.
Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the sergeant at arms to restore order to the joint session.
It's such a shame that this is where we've come from in the country. We have representatives. Of course, all the Republicans are clapping.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the sergeant at arms to restore order.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene were heckling Joe Biden. I didn't agree with that either. I didn't like it. I don't like hecklers. This is supposed to be a time where we show respect to. I mean, this is the head of government that we have up in front of all of us right now. Like it or not, that's who we got. So you gotta deal with it. You gotta sit there and take it. If you were this upset, why did you go? Right? A lot of Democrats weren't there. They put on their invisibility costumes for this time, and good for them. They don't need to go to this thing. So I feel bad that we're at a point in our
members
in our
are directed to uphold and maintain
we're dealing with this stuff right now. But
Mr. President, you continue.
That's just what we gotta deal with. So, Al Green, folks, give it up for him. So, our next stop brings us to the USA chants breakout as men's hockey team is honored. Now, I saw posts on Twitter after this comparing Donald Trump to Hitler. Of course, Democrats will find any reason to compare Donald Trump to Hitler. But this one is a stretch even for them. Guys, they are showing photographs of Adolf Hitler awarding Olympic athletes from the German Olympics and comparing that to Trump honoring these hockey players also from the Winter Olympics. And they're trying to draw a comparison that Donald Trump and Hitler are the same because they both honored athletes. Because folks, God forbid we honor American athletes. Whoa, God forbid that happens. And that just speaks to how wild the Democrats have become in the past years. But I will let them do the talking for me on that one. So, Trump invited the U.S. men's hockey team to the speech just days after their gold medal win over Canada at the Winter Olympics. The body broke out into chants of USA as lawmakers of both parties stood to honor the Olympians. That was a nice moment of unity there, I gotta say. The team filled the aisles of the chamber as Trump welcomed them as examples of American triumph during his speech. Hockey goaltender Connor Hellebuyck, in particular, received a hero's welcome when Trump announced he would receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Hellebuyck made 41 saves during the U.S. game against Canada on Sunday, which helped keep the score tied at 1-1, forcing an overtime. So I got that video for you right here. Let's pull it up. Pull up the video, folks. You gotta love it. Put the fist up in the air. Oh, that was a nice one. I like that one a lot. So we had that. And then, of course, we have to talk about the Democrats talking, we have to show the Democrats in their own words, or lack thereof. So Trump reprimands the Democrats, saying that you should be ashamed. So Trump's big speech included digging Democrats for voting against tax cuts under the Big Beautiful Bill, for unleashing sky-high inflation woes under the Biden administration, and for allegedly worsening the housing crisis. But this, folks, this has got to have been the best moment of them all. I gotta say, I've never seen a president do something like this in my lifetime. Take a look.
One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Of course, you see no Democrats standing for this. They should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to see that we have an entire party. I mean, what other goal, what other duty of the American government would it be other than to protect American citizens first? What other one out there? Are we protecting other people's citizens first? Is that the first duty of the American government? What is the first duty of the American government? I'd like someone to ask the Democrats. To be honest with you folks, every single time one of these bozos does an interview, they better be asked what the first duty of the American government is. If it's not to protect American citizens, what is it then?
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials
the
who
president.
block the removal of
Such a
criminal
shame
aliens.
that we
In
have
many
people like
cases,
this
drug
even in
lords,
Congress in the
murderers
first
all
place.
over our country. They're
We've
blocking
lowered our
the
standards
removal
so
of these
much when
people
it comes
out
to
of
our
our
political
country, and you
leaders
should be
in
ashamed
the
of
United States.
yourself.
I must say. You know what Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib in this clip remind me of? They remind me of you remember the Muppets, the old men Muppets that were always up in the box and they would like point and laugh at everyone all the way up from the box in the Muppet Show. That's what these two remind me of right here. They remind me of those two old men Muppets who were always grumpy and pointing at people way up in the box and cracking jokes, right? At least they were kind of funny. These people are just like wet blankets though. So Trump honored so many military leaders, actual down-to-earth, classic military heroes, American heroes, I would like to say, that should be honored, but of course they get no respect at all from the left. So Trump honored several military members of the military stretching back to World War II Tuesday, delivering a series of emotional moments throughout the evening. In addition to announcing Hellebuck's upcoming Presidential Medal of Freedom, Trump awarded military honors to 2 military pilots, a Coast Guard petty officer, and 2 National Guard members on Tuesday evening. Trump awarded the Medal of Honor to 100-year-old naval aviator Royce Williams, a veteran of World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam. Can you imagine for a second, just put yourself, when we really say that people today have gotten soft and squishy, I admit it, I'm a soft and squishy person. I cannot imagine for the life of me having served in World War II, Korea, and the Vietnam War. Can you imagine that for a second? Can you imagine fighting in 3 major world conflicts? Probably maybe the at least the top 3 of the top 5 major conflicts of the 20th century. Maybe we could say that World War I outranks Korea or Vietnam, but I think that's debatable. I think it just kind of depends on the metrics you're looking at here. But served in 3 major conflicts. World War II, certainly the top major conflict of the 20th century. Can you imagine serving 3 of them in your lifetime? Still being alive. This man is 100 years old, served in 3 wars, and made it out alive in all 3 of them. Amazing. Deserves a round of applause, folks. Wherever you are at home, give this guy a clap. Pray for this man tonight that he keeps living, because he's precious cargo, guys. So in 1952, Royce was in the dogfight of a lifetime, legendary dogfight, flying through blizzard conditions. His squadron was ambushed by 7 Soviet fighter planes, Trump recounted. It was the first aerial combat of the war, and despite being massively outnumbered and outgunned, Royce led the takedown of 4 enemy jets and almost destroyed the others, vanquishing his adversaries while taking 263 bullets into his own plane and being seriously hurt. His story was secret for 50 years. He didn't even want to tell his wife, but the legend grew and grew. He also presented the Medal of Honor to Army Chief Warrant Officer Eric Slover, who piloted an Army Chinook helicopter during the January mission that captured Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro and was wounded by hostile fire. Round of applause for this guy, folks. Round of applause. Trump also recognized Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf with the Purple Heart after Wolf was attacked on the streets of Washington, D.C. ahead of Thanksgiving. You have to forgive me, I don't know what the actual term for SPC is, but Army SPC Sarah Beckstorm, 20, was fatally injured in the same attack and posthumously awarded the Purple Heart. Pour one out, guys, for these folks protecting our streets, trying to make America a safer place. I mean, I just gotta say, here's just an aside. I know that we were all sitting here wondering if the National Guard was going to work or not in D.C. I have not heard one story from the Democrats talking about how bad crime is in D.C. I fear, or I'm glad. I mean, I don't fear that's working. I know it's working in D.C. I cannot wait. I'm going to have to do some digging, folks. If you know of any actual information that's been released on crime in D.C., comparing it to before and after the Trump National Guard takeover, please let me know. I don't think enough time has passed yet to really get a feel, but I'd be interested to know. I really feel like it is working. If it wasn't working, I feel like it'd be all over the news that Trump took over D.C. with the National Guard, and it's just a hellscape now, right? I feel like it's actually a nice place, as nice as D.C. could be, guys. So, but pour one out to Sarah Beckstorm. Round of applause. So Coast Guard rescue swimmer Scott Ruskin received the Legion of Merit for extraordinary heroism after rescuing 165 people during the deadly Texas floods in July of 2025. Trump reunited Ruskin with an 11-year-old girl he rescued in July of 2025, Millie Kate McClom. That was an amazing moment there, folks. I mean, what great optics. If there's anything that Trump knows, he knows how to do optics. He knows how to make the cameras look good on him. He knows how to get these moments that will be great material for Republicans going on campaigning. He knows about all of them. So it was Scott's first ever rescue mission, the president said, describing him as young and very brave. He lifted not just Millie Kate, but 164 others to safety. People watched Scott from a distance, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The winds were blowing and the rain was pouring, everything was going, and that rapid water, nobody's seen anything like it, Trump continued. Tonight, Scott and Millie Kate are here together, reunited for the very first time. Round of applause for these guys, folks. Round of applause. I mean, gotta say. All right, so the last thing we have to talk about from this speech was a young girl who nearly died in illegal immigration invoked truck crash was honored. So Trump invited a wide-ranging swath of guests to his speech, from everyday moms to war veterans, as well as 7-year-old Delilah Coleman. Coleman nearly lost her life in 2024 in a multi-car pileup in California that involved a tractor trailer driven by an illegal immigrant. I remember talking about the story with you folks. Delilah Coleman was only 5 years old in June of 2024 when an 18-wheel tractor trailer plowed into her stopped car, traveling at 60 miles an hour or more, Trump said. The driver was an illegal alien let in by Joe Biden and given a commercial driver's license by open borders politicians and California. The Trump administration has cracked down on non-citizen truck drivers, tightening eligible requirements for non-DUI domiciled commercial learners permits, so CLPs, and commercial driver's license CDLs in September 2025, and Trump signed an executive order in April requiring truck drivers to pass English literacy tests. Perfectly reasonable, folks. Why the hell are we giving commercial driver's license to people who we don't know? We don't know who these people are. We have no idea, right? They came into our country. We don't know who you are. We don't know if you speak English well enough to be able to read the road signs, right? Clearly not well enough to drive a truck. I mean, why the heck are we letting this go on? We do not need to live with this, and that is why Trump is back in the White House, because people said we need to put a stop to this. This is absolutely insane. The amount of disgrace that we saw under the Biden administration for allowing things like this to go on, it's absolutely disgusting. And I'm glad it's coming to an end. This was a perfectly preventable accident. And the left loves to cope and say, but actually, guys, there are car accidents that happen all the time with Americans. There are truck accidents that happen all the time with Americans. Yeah, there are. Yeah, there are. I'm not a fan of those either, folks. However, this one was preventable. Had that man not been in this country, not been led in by Joe Biden, this would have never, ever happened, right? This wouldn't have happened. And I totally sympathize with all the folks saying, those car accidents happen all the time. Yeah, there are. And those are bad also. We don't want those to happen either. We want to prevent as much bloodshed and accidents as we possibly can. And part of that is not letting people like this into our country who we don't know. We don't know who these people are. So the crackdowns are aimed at increasing road safety. Trump detailed the medical triumphs the young girl has made since the horrific crash, calling her a great inspiration, as well as giving a shout out to her dad, Marcus Coleman, as a fantastic man. Well, folks, I mean, there's that. So there was another article that I spotted that was interesting I want to talk about. And it goes over the biggest omissions in Trump's State of the Union and why they matter. So let's go and read through this and we'll discuss. But first, I mean, one more round of applause to all the service members honored, to all the individuals who were there that night. I thought that all the guests were fantastic. I mean, there were things that went on that Trump was covering that I had not even heard of that were necessarily happening. I think it's great. I mean, a lot of it I remember covering on this show, but I didn't realize how far stretching it was. I think it's great. So I think it was a great speech by Trump. Trump always does a good job with these big major speeches and stuff. So I hope we can keep the momentum rolling. And Republicans really need to start pushing that clip of the Democrats not standing up for what America's number one priority is, right? That's campaign candy right there. And the president knew it. That's why he added it in. So, and you can tell it wasn't off the cuff either. It was in the speech. He was reading off the teleprompter. So this was thought of beforehand. They knew this was going to be a good optic. So the biggest omissions in Trump's State of the Union and why they matter in 2026. So President Donald Trump delivered a sweeping State of the Union address Tuesday night, prompting new policy proposals on retirement savings, energy infrastructure, and congressional ethics, while touting his administration's record on border security, the economy, and global military operations. But despite the wide-ranging speech, which included calls for a congressional stock trading ban, the Pelosi Act, a new 401k-style retirement option, and ongoing nuclear negotiations with Iran, several areas notably were absent or only briefly addressed. The omission matter in 2026 as the administration heads into a pivotal year marking by record federal debt levels, cooling job growth, intensifying great power competition with China, and ongoing global instability. With Congress narrowly divided and the international tensions high, the State of the Union offered a key opportunity for the president to outline how his second-term agenda will address long-term fiscal sustainability, labor market momentum, and U.S. strategy abroad, questions that remain central to lawmakers, markets, and U.S. allies. So number one, biggest elephant in the room, the national debt and deficit. Despite emphasizing economic growth and vowing to root out fraud, the president did not lay out detailed plans to address the nation's $38 trillion debt or the long-term solvency of Social Security and Medicare. Trump's big, beautiful bill, 2025 tax and spending legislation, is projected by the Congressional Budget Office to add another $4.2 trillion to the national deficit throughout the next decade. The Supreme Court's recent ruling striking down his universal tariffs created a $2 trillion revenue gap that the president didn't address. He claimed alternative statutes would fill it, but there's potential for courts to strike down those as well. The issue also has prompted concerns within Trump's old party, myself included, folks. I've been a big screamer on the national debt. So Trump proposed a new war on fraud task force Tuesday night to be led by Vice President J.D. Vance, because of course the Vice President doesn't have anything to do, so we gotta give him this. Claiming that rooting out corruption, specifically targeting the Somali community in Minnesota, could recoup enough stolen taxpayer funds to balance the budget overnight. It won't, guys. It won't. I'm not going to sit here and lie. It's not going to do that. That I'm calling BS on that. The debt carries heightened urgency in 2026 as interest payments approach $1 trillion annually and lawmakers face looming deadlines on entitlement trust fund solvency and future budget negotiations. The White House pushed back on concerns about long-term fiscal risk. The reality is that President Trump has already slashed the deficit by nearly 23% in his first 11 months versus the same time period in 2024. White House spokesperson Kush Dashi said in a Wednesday statement, the CBO has also repeatedly underestimated economic growth, with 2025 GOP growth having eclipsed the COB's meager 1.9% projection for the year. That's all great. This is all great. But I mean, cutting it by 29%, that's like that's good, but like we're still in debt. So like, the reason why the Trump administration did not address this is because they want to lower taxes, which I'm a fan of. I love the idea of paying less money in taxes, right? Big fan of it. I don't like giving up my money to the Fed any more than the next guy down the street, right? However, if we're going to be perfectly honest here, folks, if we want to take care of the debt issue, we actually probably need to be paying more in taxes. Not that I'm a fan of that. Not that I'm at all in favor of raising taxes at all, folks. But for being realistic here, I really don't feel, right? Our current deficit's around $2 trillion. I don't feel like there's $2 trillion of debt or fraud within the federal government. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to just go missing to fraud and have nobody do anything about it. I could be totally wrong, and I will gladly eat my words if Trump says that he found enough fraud in the federal government to take care of our deficit. It will blow my mind, folks, and I will be the first to tell you that I was absolutely wrong. I just don't feel like there's $2 trillion of debt in our government. Second, I like to say is that unless J.D. Vance is willing to start going after the entitlement programs, we're not going to get anywhere, right? The entirety of the federal government's budget is not even as big as the deficit. Like, if you cut all other government departments except for entitlements, it would not take out the deficit, right? We spend so much on entitlements and our interest payments alone on our debt that it's more than the entire rest of the budget. How insane is that, right? So unless you have someone who's willing to actually go after things like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and start actually coming up with some common sense solutions to reform these programs and start covering up our wounds, because we're bleeding money right now for these programs, nothing's going to happen. So this is one of those things where I'll believe it when I see it, and right now I don't believe it. So the next thing we have is job growth. So the roaring economy is roaring like never before, Trump boasted during the speech. More Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. But the president failed to touch on 2025's lagging job growth. The labor market added 181,000 jobs in all of 2025, much fewer than the 1.46 million jobs that were added in 2024. So there's a lot to cover in here. We're going to wrap it up here, folks. I mean, I could keep going on and on and on from this article. But let's have a brief little summary, folks. Republicans are running a tight race right now. I don't believe any of the reports that are coming out the saying that Republicans are all in a good position. I don't think they are. I think that the Trump administration is doing a great job. I think that people are overall happy with the movement of the administration for the most part. I don't think it's enough right now to have the midterms go our way. I think right now my prediction is we lose the House, we keep the Senate. That's kind of my general feeling right now. Could be totally wrong. If Republicans want to win this thing, they got to have an all-out marketing push like they did in 2024, get some really good ads going out across the country, use things like this in their marketing material, and really hammer home the fact that Democrats are not here to fight for you as American citizens. They're here to fight for people from other countries. And I think that'll be it. If they can prove that point and have another election where we get a lot of low propensity voters show up like we did in 2024, I don't think it'll happen, but we can see. And we can convince people that the overall direction of the country is a positive one, might have a shot. But with that, folks, that's all we're going to cover today on this show, this episode of the Nathan Hale Show. We'll have more for you next week. We're kind of cutting it a little bit close right here with getting this episode out for you all. But I hope you enjoyed it. We'll have a longer show next week, more to talk about. But I really just wanted to hammer down on the State of the Union and give my full thoughts on what had gone on with that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can follow me at HomeOnATN on all these social media platforms. Make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube X and Rumble, YouTube X and Rumble, YouTube, Twitter and Rumble, whatever it is, right? And see you all next week. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.